program development, and management. Her current responsibilities include leadership of a staff of 30 who provide computer and job readiness workshops, career pathway programs, financial coaching, and homeownership services. Angie also serves as the point person for employment training, data integrity, and evaluation. She holds a master's in nonprofit management from the Hamline University and is a certified Global Career Development Facilitator. She's also the best next door neighbor you can imagine. Henry Rucker is financial coaching and home ownership manager at PPL. And during his 8 years there, he has developed expertise in helping lower income people to gain greater financial stability and even make the transition to home ownership. Henry manages a team of 5 who provide counseling and coaching in finances and housing. Excuse me, and housing. He also implements, helps to implement PPL's race equity framework. He has served or is serving as a board member of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers in the Twin Cities, and also Habitat for Humanities. Let's see. He's also a member of the 2022 diversity committees of both the Minnesota and Minneapolis Area Association of Realtors. He was awarded the 2022 Excellence in Service Award from the Minnesota Homeownership Center. He holds a BA in Business Administration from Clark Atlanta University. Henry is a licensed real estate broker and is certified in foreclosure advising, home buyer education, and home buyer advising. And sorry, Henry, I think I screwed up a little bit in the middle of this, but
you're perfectly fine.
Anyway, please welcome Angie Willardson and Henry Rucker.
Yeah, you can take it out of there.
Thanks, Logan. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for having us. We're really happy to be here. Thank you, Peggy, for inviting me. We really appreciate it. Minneapolis, and we serve all of the Twin Cities. My coworker Henry, who also introduced himself, and you get the second half of all this. All right. So moving along here, PPL, we're actually celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and during that time, PPL has been led by 3 dedicated presidents. Our founder is Joe Savaggio. If you are familiar with that name, he is well known throughout the metro. He first started PPL to connect people to housing, specifically purchasing foreclosed homes in South Minneapolis and connecting them to families to buy, okay, and then fix up on their own, okay, using PPL's tool lending library. PPL grew to build and provide affordable and supportive multifamily housing units, as well as employment training services
that connect qualified diverse participants to careers with family sustaining wages. Yes. Thank you. All right. PPL was next led by Steve Kramer, who's currently the president and CEO of the Minneapolis Downtown Council. Steve helped narrow down PPL's core pillars of housing and employment services. And for the last 8 years, we've been led by Paul Williams, who was previously the deputy mayor of the city of St. Paul, and just recently was named the most admired CEO of the year by the Minneapolis St. Paul Business Journal. So as you can see, we are an organization led by community builders and staffed by people who believe in building community. Our two core pillars, as you see there, are housing and career readiness. Our mission is to build the hope, assets, and self-reliance of individuals and families who have lower incomes by providing transformative affordable housing and career readiness services. It's in our housing stability work, PPL manages and services over 1,500 units of affordable housing throughout the Twin Cities. And staff there provide support services as needed with residents to help stabilize the household and restore pride. Henry and I both work in the career readiness department, and our work focuses on income growth and wealth and asset building. I often think of us as social capital for the participants accessing our services. They've got all the right stuff, and we support with career and financial coaching, connecting them to our network and our services. Just as an example, these are the current trainings that we have running. I know Paul said he checked out our website already. Thanks for doing that. This is an example. We are a lot in the healthcare field. We are also in administrative. We offer financial advisor training in banks. That one's going to start early next year. And typically a cohort can run 6 weeks to 9 months and have about 15 or so people in it that are going through. I thought it would be helpful to see what our employment training model looks like. So infused throughout all of those career pathway trainings, every participant has their own career coach and their own financial coach. We provide support services throughout training as needed, such as bus or gas cards and referrals to our Ready for Success clothing program. All of our trainings include power skills, which is the new word for soft skills, because those are the skills that everyone needs to not only get, but to keep your job. It includes effective communication, navigating workplace culture, and empowerment. Many of our trainings include college classes at our education partners, such as Minneapolis College and Normandale, and an industry recognized credential is attached to it as well, because it boosts qualifications and that resume. And then at time of graduation, the participant continues to work closely with their career coach for job placement and has access to both their career coach and their financial coach for up to 12 months afterwards, and often longer as that participant works toward their financial goals as well, which is where Henry comes in. We've got a very large racial homeownership gap in Minnesota, and Henry and his team are dedicated to closing that gap with their financial coaching and homeownership work.
Thank you. Does anybody recognize the individual in the middle of this picture? I know you would know, sir. You want to share with your colleagues who that is? Minneapolis Association of Realtors, and she's the first Black in the 135-year history of the association. Say it again. Okay, so the reason this slide to me is very important is Maurice Hudson, the gentleman that is the buyer, he bought his first house in his 20s, right? This just happened this year. Trent Bowman is one of our very good bankers that we work with at Midwest One Bank, but the average, does anybody know what the average age is for a Black homeowner in the state of Minnesota? I want to guess. Ooh, very good guess. 44. Does anybody know what the average rate age is for a white homeowner in the state of Minnesota? What'd you say? Very close, 30, about 34, 35. You guys don't mind sharing, how long have you been in your houses? If you've been in your house for more than 10 years, raise your hand. If you've been in your house more than 15 years, raise your hand. For 20 years, raise your hand. Okay, now, if you bought that house, let's just say 25 years ago, and you sold it, you normally make what when you sell your house? Make a profit, right? Or you can even use some of that equity in your house to gift it to your grandchildren or to your kids. Home ownership in the Black community is rare. And I apologize for being late today, but I was at Midtown Global Market. We're doing a campaign with US Bank. It's called Operation Hope. So John Hope Bryant out of Atlanta is now going to put financial coaches and some people that can talk to bank employees, and not just employees, but customers of US Bank, and PPO is part of that. The reason why this is important as far as financial literacy goes, if you look at this slide here, a lot of people don't realize that different banks have different programs. Has anybody heard of what we call a portfolio loan, or CRA? CRA stands for Community Reinvestment Act, which says every bank in the state of Minnesota that does business must have a loan that they keep on their own books. That's a portfolio loan, and it's not FHA, it's conventional. If you're in today's market, if anybody has sold their house or has a grandson, daughter, or a relative, or anybody that's bought a house, most buyers had to use original financing if they want their offer accepted. And I'll be honest with you guys, what's the average sales price would you think in Golden Valley? The state, huh? It's much higher in Golden Valley than it is across the state. It's about 330,000 across the state. Say it again. Yep, across the state, it's about 325, 340. But if you look at this, this is all the banks that we have worked with in the last year and a half that have at least closed $1 million with us, if not more, right? Midwest One is the top leading lender that we're working right now with over 20 loans that they've closed. But does anybody know what Midwest One Bank does that maybe another bank is not doing right now? Especially trying to get more people of color with an emphasis of African Americans in the homeownership. They have 100% financing right now, right? So there's no down payment, right? So if you use their program, you get 100% financing. So if you're buying a house for $300,000, you qualify, they give you a loan for $300,000, right? We are very generous as well. PPL received a donation from a private family about 2 years ago that gave us $1.5 million, $300,000 a year to assist us to help people buy houses, right? And to fill that gap, because a lot of times, if you don't mind sharing, when you bought your house, where'd your down payment come from? Cash, savings, right? Right now, white households net worth is 8-to-1 for African Americans, right? So a lot of people, especially people of color, do not have the down payment. They don't have a mom or dad that can borrow them the money. They don't have grandma or grandpa that can gift them the money. So this comes into be a very important role. And I think a lot of it is when you think about, I live in South Minneapolis. I live not too far from George Floyd Square. I've been in my house for 20 years. In the 20 years I've been in my house, I've never had a Black homeowner. Neighbor, homeowner, nothing. 20 years, right? What do you think that number looks like in Golden Valley? Because me and Ship have had this conversation a few times. So, right, so we're finally meeting face to face, we're on the phone together. The reason I just say that, you guys, a lot of people don't believe homeownership is possible, right? And the reason I just say that, if you look at Golden Valley or Minneapolis, it's similar. So this next slide is going to kind of show that, right? If you look at these numbers here, this breaks down what PPO participants look like that are buying in a certain county versus the average. So we know we're doing the work. The work is being done to help more people of color get into home ownership. But a lot of it is based on the fact that they don't know they can be a homeowner. Because if you grow up as a renter, you think renting is the first thing you're going to do. And I'll be honest with you guys, how many of us thought in 2020 we still be talking about COVID? Like, that's how fast 2 years goes by. I was just talking about this morning with one of my coworkers that in March of 2023, it would be 3 years since most people went home. And most of us have not went back to the work full time, even if you feel we're 60-40. But a lot of those people that we can help are still renting, but they don't believe they can become homeowners. Because I say this all the time, if you're not paying your mortgage, you're paying somebody else's mortgage, right? So we want to get you into home ownership. So this is just kind of speaks volumes of the work that we're doing. So again, if you flip that, right, we want that to be this should be the norm, I would say, everywhere, not just with inside PPL. We have to get more people to understand that homeownership is possible. This talks about the volume as well. I think we had a big increase. Me and Angie talked about this kind of when COVID was happening. Our phones were ringing nonstop. I don't know about you guys. I have a wife and a daughter and a house. If we probably would have been in an apartment, we might have went crazy, right? Because my daughter's physically doing school from home, right? I have to work from home. My wife has to work from home. So I just think having our own space, my daughter's now a junior at Washburn, the daddy cave became the daughter cave, right? Daddy started doing a lot of meetings outside on the deck, but we had the room to expand. And I just think this speaks volumes of the number of closings that we've been able to have over the last few years, where a lot of people realize, hey, under COVID, I don't know if I want to rent anymore. I think I want to be a homeowner. And how do I get to that next phase? And I think this really just shows them how we have helped more people get into home ownership. And typically, if somebody takes care of you, what do? You tell somebody. I heard some people say they're in the finance world. How do you get some of your referrals? Word of mouth. So when you take care of somebody, I just, again, leaving this event, we should be making money while we sleep. That's not common in the Black community. That's not common among the BIPOC population. Or also tell people you can't play the game if you don't know the rules of the game. Right. So what we're trying to do is give people the rules of the game to make it more comfortable for them to say, hey, you know what? I'm paying $1,500 a month in rent. I actually might be able to get a house payment at $1,400 or $1,600. But they have to understand how that works. And a lot of times, I'll ask you guys this as well. How many of you actually have a budget? Right? A lot of people don't even know where their money's going. They don't really have a real budget. A budget can be on a spreadsheet. It can be something you use online, mint.com. It can be just a sticky note at home, but you got to know where your expenses are going. So that's one thing I think we've helped a lot of people establish is how much are you spending a month on rent? How much are you spending a month on groceries? How much are you spending on food, dining out, that type of stuff that then shows them that it's possible to be a homeowner. They just didn't know it was possible. So we've been allowed to access a lot of different down payment programs. Hopefully we will get that set up in Golden Valley one day where we'll have a down payment program, but it just goes to show you that the way you can help people buy in different areas, right? Because when they come into PPL, wherever they choose to buy is where they choose to buy. We don't direct them any one way, but I will say this, the way we talk about our communities though, is very different, right? I'll say this again, I don't believe in hoods. The hood is on your car, right? I believe in neighborhoods. I live in the Powderhorn neighborhood. I grew up in the Fielder G neighborhood. My parents are still there. My parents are 86 and 83. Right? More than likely that house probably wouldn't be sold. That's another reason we have a shortage of inventory, because it's actually cheaper for us to keep my parents in their house and pay for somebody to come and do physical therapy at the house, pay for somebody to come to the house and help my mother out. So it's things like this that affect the market, but it also, they live in what we call a valued neighborhood. We all know Golden Valley is a valued city that people want to live in. So if you grew up in Golden Valley, you think about, oh, I'll move back into Golden Valley. A lot of people don't understand that the way we talk about our communities affects where people maybe want to live. They may not live right in Golden Valley. They can live right outside of Golden Valley, but they should have the opportunity to live in Golden Valley if they want to. And a lot of that to me is associated around down payment. It varies. Some people may need 5,000, some people may need 20,000. We were lucky a few months ago, we had a church actually give a young lady $40,000 so she could buy in the neighborhood that the church was in. She'd been a long resident, a long member of the church, and they said, hey, we want you to be in the community. And they assisted her with $40,000, and it was a gift, which means she never had to pay the money back. But this just kind of breaks down by having the private donors. If you look at the very bottom, we've been able to help people get over that finish line that might not have known we were going to get over that finish line because they might have bought in an area that didn't have down payment assistance, and we were to step in and help them on that. That is it for us. Yes, sir.
Drawing from a neighborhood, I'm assuming in and around the Franklin Avenue area. I'm not sure where you bring your participants on, but I'm concerned about the training that these people have that have never had a checkbook. And understand that right now the big deal is to buy Chime or do a PayPal, which does nothing to provide them any kind of experience other than money in and money out. Are you doing anything to help that kind of direction, bring them around the big, more than just that?
What's interesting is that we had a closing that got delayed, and it was not PayPal, it was Venmo. Right, so a young lady had rented a space like this for a girlfriend's birthday, and everybody sent her cash back via Venmo. The underwriter had a problem with that. So those are things that we address with having what I like to say brick and mortar. We want you to have a brick and mortar relationship. I do think cell phones are a blessing and a curse. I believe computers, technology is somewhat a blessing and a curse. But I would say we always encourage people to have multiple accounts. So we typically tell people to have an account with a traditional bank and also a credit union. Because again, a credit union is a nonprofit. And they typically have a little bit better programs for people that are looking to get into the world of banking. I was a banker for 10 plus years at one of the largest banks in the state, right? And it's really about sales. But we're trying to change that mentality. So like today, the event I was at earlier, it's about how do we work better with the community to get them to understand that they're just not a number, that we really do want their business. May it be whatever major bank we have here, we have to make people understand that the brick and mortar is a way to go. I'm not saying you can't do online banking, but you really need to know what's going in and out of your checking account, what's in your savings account, I always quote Warren Buffett as well. He tells people pay yourself first. That's what we're trying to teach people is you make sure you pay yourself first and you have that money hopefully for an emergency, for down payment. I don't believe Black Friday is a holiday, right? PPO is closed, but we have a lot of people that will go financially in the hole celebrating that day after Thanksgiving because, again, social media can be good and bad. We're trying to keep up with people sometimes and we don't really have the money. And we get people from all over too. To answer that question, most of our participants come from all over the state.
A great question. We actually have a partnership with NAS. We have a career specialist and financial coaches that work just with NAS families. We've been going for 50 years. Word of mouth is really big. We work with a lot of other community-based organizations, the career force, spreading the word. We're on social media. We're on the radio. We're in the paper, spreading the word like that. Yeah. And like Henry said, I mean, Minneapolis, St. Paul, I would say are probably like our biggest who we're serving, Ramsey and Hennepin County, out to New Hope, Brooklyn Park. I mean, really, it's the full Twin Cities and surrounding suburbs access services. And during COVID, we even had a Mankato person. Yeah. So.
What about First Independence? Golden Valley's had some conversations with them initially about trying to put some of our, or put them on the list as a depository where we could put some tax dollars. But I didn't see them on that list there. They're still trying to get up on the feet here in the market.
So it's funny, I was just with David, he said you guys are talking. He was at the event. So they are just now launching their CRA stuff here. Helda, that's out of their other location. I don't know if you know, so Vachel Hudson, that used to work at the Urban League, is now over at First Independence Bank. He's going to be their CRA loan officer. We do first-time homebuyer classes with First Independence Bank, but I think they're just trying to get their feet into the mortgage business. But I do believe there will be a long-lasting relationship built with them. For a lot of people that didn't know, the building that they first opened up in, PPO owns that building. So yeah, and I used to be Damon's AAU basketball coach. So there's a relationship there. It's just really, they have to have the product. And what we have done, since they're not really doing a lot of mortgages yet, we've been hosting classes with them. So to get people aware of what's coming to First Independence Bank. So First Independence Bank, also known as FIB, is the first Black bank in Minnesota, Black-owned bank in Minnesota. They have a location in, I would say, University area. Now they just opened a branch on Lake Street. But I do think the success of that bank is going to depend on everybody in the community all over the state investing in First Independence Bank. We have 2 closes in St. Paul. So the way we're funded for home ownership is there's probably about 30 agencies. We actually do classes in St. Paul. So we have a grant that we got from the St. Paul Association of Realtors. We're going to do some stuff at the Rondo Library. We will work with anybody. We have 2 closings. We have a closing today in St. Paul. We have a closing tomorrow that's in St. Paul. We would, again, we don't have any bias in where you buy it. We always tell people the perfect house is the house you can afford and the house you want to be in, right? So we don't direct them to any particular area of the state or cities. I think the difference though in St. Paul is there are other nonprofits that we partner with in St. Paul. So we do a lot of stuff with NIDA. We do some stuff with CAP. So it just depends on the organization, but we have grown probably, I would say 200,000% in the last 8 years. So we're getting a lot more business in St. Paul. But I also, not gonna say territorial, but if it's a better fit for that person, if they live closer to somebody, maybe in St. Paul, we may refer them over there. Because it also, now again, COVID's changed that because a lot of stuff we're doing is via Zoom and Teams. But before, when they were coming face to face, we would send them maybe someplace that's closer to where they actually live. Thank you.
And now we have more ideas of where those millions and billions that we won, you know, in the lottery can go. There was a competition for pictures of Golden Valley. And so we had made the top 6 into note cards.
This is the golf course, isn't it?
I believe so. I don't know. We didn't put the pictures on the, or the name of where they're from. Peggy might. Oh, it is. Okay. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.